Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bitcoin News Weekly Live. I'm your host, Rob Wallace, and we've got a big show ahead of us today. What are we talking about? Quantum. It's taken over the timeline. Everybody's debating it. Is it an imminent threat or just some VC-funded FUD? Let's dive into it. I got the intro. We are ready to go. Okay. Back in 2018, Nic Carter famously created the Bitcoin FUD dice. It was a 12-sided die covered in the same recycled headlines. Critics could just roll it, transcribe the result, and publish their next hit piece against Bitcoin. High fees, energy waste, toxic fans. Add enough together and you've got a solid piece for media, which is why this week feels incredibly ironic. Just because Nic reached back into that FUD bag and pulled out the ultimate Bitcoin boogeyman, quantum computing. In a new piece that lit the Bitcoin timeline on fire, Carter argues that quantum is no longer science fiction. We've moved past the theoretical. And now he says a breakthrough is just a matter of engineering. According to his research, a functional scaled quantum computer could arrive as early as the late 2020s. And if a cryptographically relevant computer arrives faster than we expect, it could, in theory, rip private keys from exposed public keys and turn vulnerable addresses into a $600 billion honeypot. But Nic aims his biggest shots at the Bitcoin developers themselves. He argues that if a fix exists, the Bitcoin community is too slow, too fractured, and too head in the sand to coordinate a mitigation before the clock runs out. But wouldn't you know it, there's money involved. Carter also disclosed that his VC firm, Castle Island Ventures, just led a $6 million seed round into a post-quantum company called Project 11. This has the toxic Bitcoiners, quote unquote, from his FUD dice asking a simple question. Is this a legitimate warning, or is it FUD-as-a-Service to pump a portfolio company? So how do we, as people with a deep vested interest in the Bitcoin network, think about quantum without being FUD'ed out of our bags? Quantum is undoubtedly a theoretical threat to elliptic curve cryptography, but it's also a threat with wildly uncertain timelines. The true test for Bitcoin is whether this community can respond calmly, deliberately, and early. That requires two things. One, personal on-chain hygiene. Stop reusing addresses and avoid leaking public keys. These are things that you can do today to make yourself a harder target without touching a single line of Bitcoin's code. And two, the escape hatch. We need to research post-quantum signatures and start drafting contingency BIPs. We need to give this ecosystem years, not months, to coordinate. Short-term panic weakens Bitcoin, but denying a real possibility will also get you blindsided. The middle path of adversarial thinking, slow changes, and relentless preparation is how Bitcoin went from a post on a mailing list to a $2 trillion asset. Welcome once again to Bitcoin News Weekly Live. Today, I'm very grateful to be joined by my guest, Mr. Kal Kassa. Kal, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Robert. That was a great lineup and headlines. I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Yes, glad to have you here. As we were discussing, I've been following you for years. You are over in Ethiopia helping to run the Bitcoin mining revolution happening in the country. So please tell us your background and what is going on in Ethiopia.
That's right. You have it right. We are experiencing a revolution in Bitcoin mining. We currently have more than 25 companies purchasing energy from the power authorities. Last year, they purchased more than $200 million of energy. This year, they're on track for $300 million of energy. And I've been working in the consulting and advisory space. I do a lot of Bitcoin education, speaking to large crowds, universities, colleges, government officials, and so on. And we're pushing the good word. What is Bitcoin? How does the protocol work? What is money? How is money going to be transformed through the ages? And how can Ethiopia and Ethiopians take advantage of this new Bitcoin revolution?
That's wonderful. So what is the most asked question to you when you're giving these education pieces?
So I get a lot of questions about, as you mentioned, personal on-chain hygiene, right? So self-custody, passwords, what wallets and apps they should be using. So, the day-to-day person is not going to dive into the rabbit holes as someone like you and me. So helping them with bite-sized, digestible information translated into their local languages. Here in Ethiopia, we have more than 80 languages. So a lot of it is how do they store their Bitcoin and why should they be holding it in the first place?
And what's going on in Ethiopia is really mind-blowing, right? You said Bitcoin miners have about $200 million worth of energy. They're on track for $300 million worth of energy within the next year. That's huge. And that represents between 2 to 3% of the global Bitcoin hash rate. So why is Ethiopia such a hotspot for Bitcoin mining right now?
Sure. So there's a few reasons. The first is our electricity. 95% of it comes from hydroelectric sources along the Nile River. So that gives us a great advantage in producing not only cheap energy, but green energy. The second reason is Ethiopia is about 2,000 to 3,000 meters above sea level. So that gives Ethiopia a natural advantage when it comes to cooling down these Bitcoin miners. And then the third is we have great investment incentives, tax holidays, and other guarantors for investors coming into Ethiopia. So we're still developing, and so we have a lot of incentives to keep these investors here. And so with energy at 3.6 cents kilowatt hour, we're going to see these pricing tariffs adjust upwards over the next few years, but that's quite attractive to the Bitcoin miners.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, America is the home of Bitcoin mining for the world, you could say. I think about a third of all the hash rate is coming out of the USA, but we are also seeing energy prices going up, shooting up through the roof, right? Because the AI data centers are willing to pay a much higher price for that electricity than the Bitcoin miners are. So they are being pushed out, I think, over the next couple of years. And I think that Ethiopia, with very cheap energy, green energy, and the right climate, will benefit greatly from that. So you're in the right position, man. It seems to only be growing there. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you've made great note of it in your newsletter this week. The AI valuations are quite strong, and they have the muscle to move some of these Bitcoin miners out of their facilities. So that may mean that Ethiopia is taking in some of those investors that have left the United States.
All right, well, let's jump right into it because we've got lots of headlines to go over today. As everybody knows, this is Bitcoin News Weekly Live. We break down our new newsletter. Comes out every Monday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, right into your inbox. And this week, the title is Quantum Hysteria. How real is the threat to Bitcoin? Is it VC-funded FUD or an imminent risk? So before we talk about quantum and the threats and what is going to happen to all these vulnerable addresses with over $600 billion worth of Bitcoin that might be attacked by a nefarious quantum computer owner, let's jump into some more friendly headlines, still Bitcoin mining related. The country of Bhutan, right here in the adoption section, they plan to allocate 10,000 Bitcoin from their mining operations as collateral to finance construction of the Galefu mindfulness city, using lending and yield strategies to fund infrastructure without selling. So Bhutan and their strategic Bitcoin reserve, that's all been funded by mining up in the Himalayas, once again, using hydropower. This has been one of the most beautiful stories in terms of sovereigns, countries going after Bitcoin, creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve and utilizing for the betterment of their people. They have mined over 10,000 Bitcoin, of course. They've sold some in order to fund government projects, pay government employees, build a new airport. But now, instead of selling their Bitcoin, they're going to pledge it. They're going to use it as collateral, 10,000 Bitcoin worth approximately $1 billion to fund a new mindfulness city. Of course, Bhutan is the famous country known for using happiness as a gauge of their strategic or country's well-being rather than GDP. They had a metric that measured happiness rather than the amount of money that their country is making. So they're very much about the betterment and well-being of their people. They're a small mountain kingdom, but this is an amazing story. They've mined a bunch of Bitcoin, and now they're using it to better their country, better their people. Have you looked into Bhutan and what they're doing over there with their mining?
Absolutely. I think Bhutan is a beautiful story as to what could be done with Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. I think it's a small country, right? Under 1 million people or so. But I think it could be extremely instructive to other nation states. I think they go by the land of the thunder dragon. So they could be very informative to Ethiopians. And like you said, their gross national happiness, I think is a great metric for how we should be thinking about growth and development in the Bitcoin era.
So yeah, I mean, if you've got mountains and running water, you've got energy. And if you can capture that to mine Bitcoin with, you're creating the hardest money in the world, utilizing your country's natural resources without diminishing them at all, right? Without consuming them and using them up and allowing future generations to prosper as well. So it's really, really cool what's going on over in Bhutan, and may they be a model for the rest of the world. Amazing stuff.
Absolutely.
Cheers to Bhutan. And then in some other good news, the Lightning Network hits a new all-time high capacity of 5,637 BTC, its highest level since 2023. And meanwhile, the USD value of that liquidity has 5.6x since the last all-time high, jumping from 88 million to 494 million. So what does this mean? The Lightning Network, of course, is Bitcoin's most used layer 2. It allows you to do fast, instantaneous, very cheap payments across the Bitcoin network, and there is no token associated with it, right? It is using real native Bitcoin locked up into channels to allow people to transact instantaneously. And so it really hit the ground in 2019 and has been growing in capacity until 2023, and then we saw this downtrend. But as of this year, boom, it's gone pretty much straight up in terms of capacity locked into the Lightning Network. And what's really cool to see is that the dollar value of this money locked in the Lightning Network has gone from under $100 million, $88 million, up to $494 million, right? $500 million locked into the Lightning Network. And what's cool about that is that, I mean, you don't need to have tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in order to have transactions go back and forth, because it's all locked into this like circular lightning economy, right? So the money is being pinged back and forth, and this $494 million allows for a multiple of that in order to be transacted across the network. And the node count is going down, though. There's less hobbyists who are running Lightning nodes, and who has taken their place? The big boys. The exchanges are here, and they are utilizing the Lightning Network. People want to get their Bitcoin off of the exchange faster than ever. They use Lightning. I mean, Strike, Bitfinex, River, they were some of the first adopters of it. And now you've got Coinbase, of course, Binance within the last couple of years. And now Coinbase says that 15% of all their Bitcoin withdrawals are being processed via Lightning. So, yes, I mean, the Lightning Network, do you use it in Ethiopia?
Absolutely. The Lightning Network is a godsend, right? Because Ethiopians and much of Africa, we're sending money that is small amounts, right? Sometimes even less than $1. And you're only sending that if it's on the Lightning Network. And so I think Africa as a whole, there's about $100 billion in remittances annually. For Ethiopia, that number is somewhere between $5 to $6 billion annually. So we have a great opportunity to replace the Western Unions of the world, which are often charging us 8% up to 12% for each transaction. Meanwhile, Lightning is just about free, right? Depending on your channels and your girth and so on.
Absolutely. I mean, the use case of remittances is up there, of course, for Lightning. And yeah, if you're sending micropayments, there's really no other way to feasibly do it other than Lightning. With Lightning, you can stream sats, right? You can send a couple of sats every single minute, every couple of seconds. You can send over sats to somebody. It really changes paying for content, paying content creators for their stuff, and sending money across the globe cheaply. And for those small payments, nothing better than the Lightning Network. So really awesome to see it continue to grow. Many people have FUD'd Lightning. They say that it's a failed experiment. Nic Carter, who we'll be speaking about next, famously says now that Lightning has failed as he adopts the stablecoin route. But no, we think Lightning has a great future ahead of it and can serve as the connective tissue between other Bitcoin layer 2s as well, right? ARC is another one that's really gained prominence within the last year and should have a big 2026. And it uses Lightning very seamlessly in order to transact with the Bitcoin network. So Lightning is still on the come up. It's still growing. Go out and use it. Get yourself a Lightning wallet and experiment. It's fun. It's fun to zap money back and forth and have a good time with it. And so now for the title of the show, Nic Carter ignites a heated debate in the Bitcoin community with a new article arguing that Bitcoin developers are sleepwalking toward collapse by ignoring the threat of quantum computing. So yes, the Bitcoin community has known that quantum is a threat for forever, right? It's this has the potential to break elliptical curve cryptography. Mining is not as much as a threat as it uses just raw energy in order to create trillions upon trillions of hashes per second. But when it comes to elliptical curve cryptography and your public-private keys, that's what quantum is a threat to. The real question is quantum an immediate threat, or are we years, possibly decades out from there ever being a computer that can actually harness this energy and attack Bitcoin? So before we dive into this article here, Kal, what are your thoughts on quantum? Is this something that keeps you up at night when it comes to Bitcoin?
Not yet. I get the sense that Nic Carter is a very high IQ Bitcoiner. And so it's great to see that Bitcoiners are looking at various attack vectors. Maybe some are perceived, maybe some are real and imminent. I think the timeline, like you said, is going to be very important. Is it within the next halving or within the next two? I think those type of variables will be very interesting, but no, this hasn't kept me up as of recent now.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Nic is certainly a high IQ individual, but he also famously has steered away from the Bitcoin community. I mean, I think he's still a Bitcoiner in some regards, but he's very much more into just the crypto sphere, right? But that shouldn't stop us from talking about this if this research that he has put together is correct. I mean, what he's saying here is, to put it another way, with quantum, we are in the equivalent of nuclear fission in 1939. Known to be possible with no theoretical roadblocks remaining, but still requiring an enormous engineering lift. So what they've been able to accomplish over the last couple of years, I mean, Google just came out with its Willow quantum computer. IBM, of course, has done a lot of work in quantum computing. They did make some big breakthroughs in 2025. But the question is, what is the timeline here? He says that we're looking at late 2020s to mid 2030s, and that the average expert on Metaculus anticipates the arrival of quantum computing around 2033. So why is this a problem for Bitcoin? It's because it would be able, right here, not all coins are currently exposed to being a threat for quantum, and SHA-256 is not considered quantum vulnerable, aka mining, but 6.7 million Bitcoin are vulnerable at the time of writing, $604 billion worth. Additionally, in the short window between when coins are spent and included in a block, a sufficiently powerful quantum computer could, in theory, reverse engineer the private key and redirect the expenditure. This applies to coins at any sort of address, hashed or not. So what do we do about it? The question is, what moves are to be made? I mean, there are some people already talking about this. Hunter Beast is a Bitcoin dev who has proposed BIP, Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 360, which would help us move towards a post-quantum signature scheme. But lots more work needs to go into this to make this a reality, because, of course, Bitcoin is decentralized. And in order for something as big as this to happen, you would need people to, of course, be aware that there's a solve, a post-quantum script to be used to migrate their funds over to this new signature. And for that to happen, could take years, right? And I think the other real big question that comes with quantum is, say we do get everything in line before it's a real threat and people who are active within the community are able to move their funds over, what happens to Satoshi's coins? If Satoshi is, say, no longer with us and those coins are just sitting there in their original legacy addresses, that's a question that needs to be asked to Bitcoiners. Do you think it's better to intervene and freeze Satoshi's coins? Or do you think that whoever is able to get quantum going has the right to take those coins and do whatever they want with them? What's your opinion?
Well, I just I heard you speak about a BIP, right? That's that's coming into formation. So I'll let the free market solve it, right? If these BIPs come up, if Nic Carter can, convincingly share his position and his perspective, then I think he can convince a considerable amount of developers to look into this issue. So I don't know if the title can continue forward because we're obviously looking into this issue. I think there's now an entire stream of Bitcoin Twitter accounts looking into quantum threats and quantum computing. And so I think it's quite evident that the developers aren't sleepwalking into that collapse. Maybe we'll see a taproot-like bit come into fruition, or maybe this will all go away.
So yes, I do think you're right that now the eyes are on it, and people are thinking about it and making moves, and this will take plenty of time, years, in order for there to be an actual workable solution. But the question that is raised, that even if we are able to come up with a BIP to transfer our private keys over and make them post-quantum safe, there's still the legacy addresses, right? And Satoshi has 1 million coins that are sitting there in the original legacy Bitcoin addresses, and these are quantum vulnerable. So the question now that's raised is, okay, everybody who's active on the network now has moved over to quantum, but quantum safe. But in terms of these original 1 million Satoshi coins, it's like the ultimate quantum bounty, right? If you're able to crack quantum, you can go after those first and attack that. And do you think that part of this security measures that we should take to protect ourselves against quantum, should we freeze these old coins, or should we let them be? And if they are attacked, then the attackers can have them.
I'm okay with the bounty. I'm okay with the bounty.
Okay. Cool. Me too. Me too. I agree. I agree. If Bitcoin can't withstand 5% of the total network supply being theoretically dumped on it, then it was never meant to be in the long run. But yeah, I mean, this is a real question, and I do think that most Bitcoiners would side on this case of just, okay, if those coins are lost, let them be open to quantum attackers to go and get after it, right? Crazy thought experiment. What if Bitcoin and Satoshi were an AI from the future who left us with it in order for us to bootstrap the energy development that was necessary for AI, and then left those coins in the original addresses to bootstrap quantum?
Oh, wow. So it's kind of like a treasure hunt put in place by Satoshi. I like that.
From the future into the past in order to motivate us to go forward and build our technological future.
I'm down with that theory. Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest question I get here in Ethiopia is, was Bitcoin developed by the CIA, right, or DARPA, or some type of military apparatus? And when you look into the history of SHA-256, right, you may make some of those conclusions. And so, yeah, I'm okay with also thinking abstractly into, maybe time travel as another way.
Does that worry you at all? If, say, Bitcoin was created by the CIA. Do you think that's a problem?
No, I mean, it might make things a little bit more interesting in just kind of our historical understanding of Bitcoin. But from what I understand, it's a protocol, it's open source, it's already decentralized.
Yeah.
Like I said, 25 miners are already hashing in Ethiopia. So I think the world has been, significantly altered. Wherever that change has come from, I'm glad it's come.
Yeah, and that's when a lot of people say, "Oh, the CIA made it; they can backdoor it." No, I mean this is open source software. Like no other protocol has been skewered over more than the Bitcoin code, right? And so people from all over the world have looked at this thing and they trust their wealth with it, right? $2 trillion worth of wealth are trusted in this protocol, and so if there was a backdoor, it probably would have been found by now, 16 years later, right? So no matter who made it, whether it was a CIA lab leak or they made it themselves and put it out there because they saw that the dollar was in dire straits back in 2008, 2009, and this was a way forward. I mean, who knows? But we are seeing the natural growth of a brand new asset, right? The first instance of digital scarcity to come into the world, and it is a beautiful thing. And do your own research, right? If you're scared of the fact that the CIA might have made Bitcoin, look into it. And there's plenty of documents and resources out there to show you why you should not be afraid. Cool. Nice. Yes. So in other developer news, we've got a sad story. Samurai dev Keone Rodriguez officially reports to prison to serve his 5-year sentence for creating Bitcoin privacy software. So if you haven't done this yet, please go over to change.org or just go to billandkeone.org and you can find a link to this page. We are collecting signatures. We are trying to get this in front of President Trump to pardon the Samurai devs. All they did was create privacy software for Bitcoin, and now they are serving jail sentences. 5 years of hard time. This is no joke. Trump has pardoned many people so far in just the last year of being president. Let's get the energy of the Bitcoin community behind this movement. I mean, it's been great to see this grow over the past week. It's essentially doubled, I think, since last week. And that's great, but we got a lot longer to go. Let's 10x this. Let's get this over to 100K. That's been the goal of the community from the very get-go. Yeah. Have you looked into the Samurai case at all, Kal?
I have, and it's very disappointing to see. I hope they get a lot of noise and we can really make an impact. I remember back when Ross Ulbricht was still in jail, right? I remember hearing his mother, Lynn Ulbricht, do the rounds at conferences, meeting with senators, really lobbying towards his freedom. And so I think we can see a similar story here and kind of rally the crowds so that this story can take center stage.
Yeah, so Ross's mom really carried the torch for him, and we've got Keone's wife, Lauren. She is really carrying it for Keone here. There's a video that she recorded of him walking into the prison to begin serving his 5-year prison term. And it's tough to watch, right? But I mean, this has over 1 million views. The word is getting out, but we need to not let this go, right? Every single day that they serve in jail is a injustice, and we can do something here, right? It's not that hard. Go when you're going home for the holidays. Talk about this. Send out this link to those you're sitting around a Christmas dinner with, and tell them that they can help make the world a better place if they sign a petition. This is it's up to us, and this case must not be forgotten. Bitcoin and privacy are our rights. We must stand up for them and make sure that those who did the hard work to help us further the causes of privacy are not put away unjustly. All right. Yes. Prayers up for the Samurai dev, Keone. Hope he's doing all right. This is an interesting one. Do you guys have Bitcoin ATMs in Ethiopia?
No, we have capital controls, so ATMs and exchanges are actually illegal here in Ethiopia.
Oh, tell us more about that. You guys don't have exchanges, but you can
Not
mine.
yet. So we can mine because, well, the miners are paying in USD. They're coming as foreign investors, and so they're allotted to pay in dollars. But for everyone else, dollars are illegal. Bitcoins are illegal. I myself am a diaspora. I have an American passport, so that allows me some privileges. There are some in Ethiopia that have letters of credits that are approved by the banks. They're allowed dollars. But for the average person here, we have capital controls, and they're only allowed to operate in the local currency, which makes any action of buying Bitcoin through peers. We have a robust peer-to-peer market. That is essentially illegal. So it makes my job in education extremely sensitive in that I'm trying not to break any rules. I'm trying to teach an innovative tool that we can use in the future, but that we can't really use right now.
Interesting. So are these capital controls a new development, or have they been there for a long time?
Oh, they've been in place for our entire history. And so we have let's say we don't trust the international banks very much, rightly so. But I think that also gives us another adage to go into Bitcoin, right? Because it purely is a sovereign device, and it'll help us escape inflation caused by the Fed and so on. And so I think the thesis here will kind of adapt itself into our tools and our governance. As of now, it's illegal.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, the story though in your country is one of prosperity when it comes to Bitcoin, right? It's just the arrows going up and to the right. More and more energy is being consumed by these Bitcoin miners, helping out of course, the power generators and the economy as a whole. And hopefully the government will catch on and be like, hey, this will be good for both the government and the people. So let's open up the doors more to it. But the story I'd like to highlight here over in America is that these Bitcoin ATMs, man, they're the source of a lot of scams targeting the elderly. CNN just put out a new video of it. I'm about to bring that up. But it kind of puts a bad name on Bitcoin when you see this scam happening over and over and over again. Let me pull up this video and we can talk about it after.
If you're all talking at once, just wait 1 second. If that's somebody telling you not to hang up, hang up. Don't put in any more money. They are scamming you. I promise you.
It's an open secret at Circle K's across the country. People getting scammed at crypto ATMs inside the stores, like this man in Longwood, Florida.
It's a scam.
He's scamming you out of your money,
He's scamming you out of your money. So we're trying to prevent that and stop you from doing it. He's going to take your life savings from you.
Don't let him do that.
Wait a minute. I just please wait. Don't hit done yet. Don't. We have a detective on the way. Please don't.
Crypto ATMs let people buy Bitcoin using cash, but the machines can charge high fees on transactions scam or legit. And the machines provide a convenient way for scammers to steal people's money all across the U.S.
I'm sorry.
No, don't. No, I'm glad we stopped it. Hopefully we did.
The owner of the machine used in this scam is Bitcoin Depot, the largest crypto ATM operator in the U.S. But the host of the crypto ATM is Circle K, Bitcoin Depot's largest corporate partner.
I want to see. I don't know what we can do with where we're at right now. I don't know.
Because that's out of my checking account. I need that money.
I know you do.
CNN and ICIJ reviewed more than 150 cases of scams using crypto ATMs inside Circle K's. Dozens of Circle K employees tell us they know about the problem of crypto scams, and some even alerted their management.
So far, he's put $22,000.
Yeah, man, it's a real issue. And they call up these social engineering, these hackers, they'll call up and say that they're part of a utility or the bank and that they need the money ASAP. And they get the elderly people all flustered. They send them to the local convenience store, Circle K in this case, and make them put in tens of thousands of dollars, their life savings. It's brutal. It's really hard to see that happen in these body cam videos, but there's dozens of them. And as somebody who's libertarian leaning and think that people should be able to spend their money as they wish, and I'm a strong believer in Bitcoin, it's hard to see people fall to these scams at Bitcoin ATMs. And it's really these ATMs that allow these scams to happen. So do you think that there should be crackdowns on these things?
Crackdowns, I'm not sure. Again, I'm a very free market libertarian, like yourself. I think there's two problems here. One, America is on the aging side of things, right? So when you look at the populace, a lot more elderly people. And so that, I think in itself, creates some of these problems. And then two, you have a lack of education, lack of awareness, custody, and so on. And so I think if those two things are addressed, right, education towards the elderly on digital currencies and tools like Bitcoin, then we can help solve the problem without meddling or interfering in the market.
Yeah, it's a hard nut to crack for Bitcoiners who are all about freedom, but also it's tough to see that. So one solution though is to not use a Bitcoin ATM, but what you should be using is Rhino. Our good friends at Rhino. They are the sponsor of the show, and we highly, highly advise you go over to check them out if you are interested in getting more Bitcoin. Because before, getting access to Bitcoin financial services was historically slow, clunky, and scattered across all these different platforms, right? But with Rhino, we're changing that. We're bringing it all into one place because Rhino is the next generation Bitcoin banking app designed to handle all of your Bitcoin needs in one place. Here's what you can do with Rhino. Of course, you can buy Bitcoin with some of the lowest fees anywhere. That means more sats for every dollar that you spend, make payments over the Lightning Network, fast, instantaneous, send cash globally, have the person on the other end receive cash, but it's sent over the Lightning Network. And of course, there you can DCA, set up automatic savings, buy Bitcoin on a schedule at a certain price level, whatever you want, DCA as you wish. And they're just beginning. Soon you'll be able to pay bills, direct deposit your paycheck straight into Rhino, borrow against your Bitcoin, and save for retirement. And of course, security is a top priority. They got biometric verification, 24/7 fraud protection, and the confidence of knowing your Bitcoin is never, ever rehypothecated. So for long-term holders, of course, you can take your Bitcoin off of Rhino, put it into cold storage. And if you use Kassa for a multi-sig, they've teamed up with them. And so they are one of the keys for your Bitcoin multi-sig solution with Kassa. So if you haven't done it already, go to rhinobitcoin.com, download it for iOS or Android, and use the code Bitcoin News. And Rhino will drop $10 of free Bitcoin into your wallet for signing up. So please go over rhinobitcoin.com. Check it out. They're a great team, great people. If you have any questions, they're very easy to get in contact with and are happy to chat with any issue you might have or just answer any questions you have about Bitcoin, buying it, and saving it for the long run. Check out Rhino. They're awesome. All right, back to the show. Kal, let's talk about the global economy. In Ethiopia, what does the economy feel like right now? Is it good?
I wouldn't say good, right? I think the threats to the economies globally are all the same. We have weak currencies, fiat currencies, we're diving into debt, some harder than others. Ethiopia, thankfully, is growing. Our GDP is growing somewhere between 6 to 8% per year. Unlike the United States, Ethiopia is very young. So 75% of our population is under the age of 27. I think our average age is around 18 or so. And so that gives us a great deal of vitality and youthfulness in our economy. That being said, we have some major work to do. And so we're industrializing quite a bit. We're energizing quite a bit, as you've seen through our hydropower investments. Obviously, we've moved into Bitcoin mining, agro processing is big, service industry, tourism. And so I think Ethiopia is really geared for success. But right now, we're encountering a lot of the head-on wins that the United States and a lot of the Western countries are facing purely through inflation and a weakening dollar.
Yeah, the debt keeps going up, and the way that they have decided to pay it back is not by increasing productivity and strengthening the dollar, but no, rather by weakening the dollar and flooding the market, paying back debt with freshly printed ones. And it's a recipe for hard times ahead, because when you make a lot of debt, you're stealing from the future to pay for today's binge, right? But the question is, what's going to happen immediately? In the long term, we all know the story, right? Fiat currency is doomed. That's why you need hard stuff. We're seeing gold hit new all-time highs, silver hit new all-time highs. Bitcoin will be, of course, be soon to follow, as we believe. But the question is, in the short term, what's going to happen? Trump is really betting a lot on the hopes that 2026 will be a boom year. We've got the elections, the midterms elections, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure people feel good in the pocketbook so they head to the polls in November and maintain the Republican majority. We've got the crypto czar, David Sachs. He, of course, is on the All In podcast as well. He's a famous Silicon Valley investor. He came out and said that the U.S. economy will boom in 2026, citing falling interest rates, easing inflation, and new tax cuts that could boost disposable income and liquidity across the system. So let's hear it from the man himself, and then we can talk about what's really going on here. Bring that up. Actually, no, let's skip that. We got some other stuff we can talk about. Actually, this one fits into it. So this is actually Jeff Ross, who's a well-known Bitcoiner, and he's talking about how there's been a PMI recession. The economy, the manufacturing in America has been been contracting since 2022, but that will change in 2026 because of the big, beautiful bill, and that means good things for Bitcoin.
Manufacturing sector in the U.S. has been literally in a recession since 2022. It spiked briefly. The ISM manufacturing PMI briefly spiked above 50. So basically it went from contraction to expansion briefly, I think in late 2024, early 2025, basically right after Trump was nominated. But then, of course, they came out with Doge and then followed that with tariff stuff. And that has just beaten down the economy. So besides that little blip where it went above 50, it's been in a contraction, or another word for that is a recession, since the end of 2022. I did not expect that at all. I thought that the manufacturing economy would be just booming by now, and that we'd actually be peaking and rolling over at this point. So people ask, I see people still asking this, is the 4-year cycle dead? And I'm like, of course it's dead. It's of course it is. Like, it's not even a question about it. Like, it died because the economy is not in this 4-year cycle anymore. So the question is what is going to happen going forward? And that's stuff we can probably talk about. But I think things look very good for a reversal of fortune. So just the way that 2025 surprised to the downside for the U.S. economy, which is still in a contraction, and for Bitcoin, which is bearish, very strongly bearish right now. Although I think it's close to a bottom. I think it's at or near a bottom at these levels. I think 2026 is looking good, and I think that's because the One Big Beautiful Bill Act will finally basically start taking effect. I think the accounting rules that are going to be in place starting in 2026 are going to start taking an effect, and I think people shouldn't underestimate how strong that impact will be. So I've basically, yes, I'm bearish currently, and I flipped to now being, instead of bearish for 2026, I'm actually quite bullish and constructive on 2026. With one more caveat, and then I'll stop, is that I think I wouldn't get too excited about the price of Bitcoin until you start seeing signs that the U.S. economy is starting to take off again. So I closely watch the ISM manufacturing PMI, and it's still, the latest thing just came out recently, and new orders are actually down again. So still very contractionary, still in a recession, basically. Until you see new orders start to peak up above 50 and then rise higher, and then finally the ISM manufacturing PMI itself start to rise above 50 to 55 and head towards 60, that will be the point that we'll start seeing Bitcoin making tremendous moves higher. But until then, I would definitely temper expectations.
Yeah, what do you think about that? It's so interesting because I've got a chart to go with it, but please tell me your thoughts.
No, I think that's interesting as well, right? I mean, we're in contraction, we're in a recession. I think he makes the point clear that the past 3 years were dismal, and his indicators, even moving forward, are dismal. That being said, I also agree with him that we've probably reached a bottom in terms of the Bitcoin price. So as we start to receive more positive indicators, then maybe we'll make a recovery within the year. So I think I agree with his assessment, and I look forward to that recovery because it's been a brutal bear market.
So yeah, I mean, this is the thesis trying to understand why Bitcoin hasn't broken out along with gold and silver right here. So we got a great guy, Sminston With. We work with him on a Thursday Space, the Bitcoin Data Lounge, and he puts just out just amazing charts, right? So first, to explain it, still wondering why we're still stuck in a crab crawl, still second guessing your decision to hodl Bitcoin, still concerned the 4-year cycles are broken? You don't need to look any further than this. Halvings don't create Bitcoin bubbles, the business cycle does, and they don't follow strict 4-year cycles. Your patience is about to be greatly rewarded. Can't keep the beach ball submerged for much longer. So it's super interesting to see the business cycles, the ISM and PMI, these metrics that gauge manufacturing and just overall economic health within America. It's been subdued, right? Since 2022. This is what they're talking about, the manufacturing recession. Since then, it's been below the 50 line. That means it's been in contraction. And Bitcoin's been able to crab crawl its way up, but we haven't had these huge parabolic moves that we are so used to. Especially in Q4 of this year, everybody was expecting to have a blow off top. And I think many people have sold in anticipation of that, but we didn't really get it. And so this is what a lot of people are looking at right now. And until this turns positive, it seems like the crab crawl is still on, but it seems as if the big, beautiful bill and a lot of the moves that they're making economically, the government side in the year of 2026 are going to push this forward. And yeah, I mean, one thing that's interesting is that really for this to go up, you do need to see the price of oil to go up. And oil has been in a brutal downtrend, right? Well, I mean, it's good if you're an average consumer and you're driving around. It's great to have low oil prices, but it also means that the economy isn't running as hot as you would expect. So yeah, this could be the reason why we didn't have the blow off top, and the reason that 4-year cycles are dead, and that it'll extend into year 5 or 6 in the next 2 years ahead. So interesting things putting together here. And yes, let's dive into now mining. This is your specialty. MicroBT just unveiled a brand new miner that's 1.35 petahashes per second. This is a beast of a machine, pushing mining into the petahash era as revenues tighten near $35 per petahash a second, and efficiency becomes critical amid rising competition. So we put out an article on this. This is the new form factor of Bitcoin miners. Are you gonna miss the shoebox? And what kind of miners are you running over there, dude?
We have Bitmain. They have S19s all the way up to 21. There's a lot of Canaan. They've been plugging in Avalon. I believe it's A90s. And then I've seen some Wets miners, which are known for taking a beating, right? You can really run those through the grinder and they'll still keep working. But these form factors are great to see. I've deployed hundreds of miners in Texas. And so I've, lugged them up and down ladders, and so yeah, it's great to see kind of these machines innovate past what you think they would. I remember just 4 years ago seeing machines that were 120 terahash and thinking they were powerful, and now we're looking at even 200 is quite wimpy, right? We're often looking above 300. And so yeah, this is great to see. And this is going to be extremely necessary in the Ethiopian market because with our price increases, I think somewhere around half of our current model miners will need to turn off at some point because they'll be losing more than they're making. So it's great to see all of this innovation, and I look forward to see these machines here in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane. I've done some home mining, and I had a Wets miner pumping out 88 terahashes per second and thought that might be a good investment. No, with residential energy rates, that is not a good investment. And I learned that the hard way. But even you with 3.6 cents per kilowatt hour, you're finding it hard to stay competitive. I mean, it's so crazy out there. I mean, in terms of hash rate, if we look at this, I mean, it's just gone straight up, right? And this is just 2025. We've gone from 800 exahashes to over a zettahash, right? I mean, this is unbelievable. This is the strongest computer network in the world, right? This thing is an absolute beast, and we've taken a little bit of a downturn in the last couple of weeks, and some were saying that was due to China turning off a large amount of Bitcoin miners over in Xinjiang, that there might be another China crackdown 2.0. But others are saying no, that it's actually just a curtailment in Texas, and that things are getting cold, so people who have signed up to the power grid are turning off in order to do their curtailment deals. But yeah, I mean, have you felt this drop in difficulty and hash rate over the last couple of weeks? Do you feel it on a week by week basis in terms of the difficulty adjustment in your business?
In my business, no. We're looking at longer time frames. But for my clients, obviously this is a pain point. One of the sayings we have in this industry is hash rate is king. And so how many machines do you have on the racks, and are those machines functioning? And so, yeah, for the Bitcoin miners, I think, like you said, the China factor might be there. The Texas factor, like you said, the demand response for curtailment, that tends to be more interesting in either the very cold winter months or the very hot summer months. And so I think it could be a myriad of factors, but it's great to see such a big market be so responsive to changes. And I think this is how the network is supposed to work.
Yeah, and you can see this just last week. All these big pools had a big drop in hash rate, and they're saying it's because of this curtailment. So can you explain that demand response to the viewers? How do Bitcoin miners work with the energy companies and shut off when they're asked to?
Sure. So within their contract is often called a power purchase agreement, a PPA. They will have different terms that they need to agree to. One of those terms will be if there is demand from the local community for all of the power in the network in that localized grid, then the Bitcoin miners are mandated, they're obligated to shut off. And so that's the response. And so the demand comes from, in Texas, ERCOT, in Ethiopia, Ethiopian Electric Power, and the response it comes from the Bitcoin miners in turning off immediately. And if that response is not met immediately, there's often penalties that will occur through seconds and minutes afterwards. So it's very important that they get it right. Otherwise, it will be a very costly error.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just so cool how Bitcoin mining has worked its way into the energy industry on such a deep level. And they support the energy industry, right? Because they provide demand when it isn't strong from residential or industrial areas, and are able to shut off at a moment's notice when the demand does go up. Say there's a surge in, it gets really cold or it gets really hot, and people need to use their either air conditioning or heating at home. Bitcoin miners will turn off at a second's notice, especially if they're getting paid to turn off, which many of the Bitcoin miners in Texas have set up deals like that. And another deals that we're seeing in Bitcoin mining are ones like this. HUD-8 shares jumped 20% after announcing a 15-year, $7 billion AI data center lease with FluidStack, highlighting miners' shift toward AI and high-performance computing amid volatile Bitcoin economics. So yeah, I mean, Bitcoin miners are experts in data centers, and they have energy contracts on the cheap. And so these AI companies are reaching out to them, looking to work with them. Are we seeing this in Ethiopia yet? Or is that years down the line, still yet to come?
Yes, we're seeing this in Ethiopia. If you look at the data that I've received from the Ethiopian Investment Commission, there are 95 companies in Ethiopia registered and licensed to do Bitcoin mining and or data centers and cloud services. And so I would say half of these companies are involved in Bitcoin mining. The other half are exploring the AI route. I think there's a bit of a difference when it comes to the operations of these two businesses. One is quite robust, Bitcoin mining. The other one requires a lot of redundancies, right? Tier 3 is often the word we hear a lot. So you need 3 or 4 different redundancies when it comes to electricity, for example. With Bitcoin miners, it's quite okay to turn them off need to be. So I think there's kind of different business models that play into kind of the switching of back and forth. But yes, I think we're seeing data centers enter Ethiopia with the objective of AI.
And is that an industry that you could consult to with your experience with energy and data centers that you've gained over the years now?
Maybe. I think I'd have to learn a little bit more about, NVIDIA and how their chips work and what their market looks like. I think the biggest difference is the Bitcoin network is constant and it's open and it's 24/7, right?
Yes.
Meanwhile, let's call it the business development cycle, the procurement cycle, the trust necessary between some of these AI actors is on a different scale. And so I think those agreements are going to take years. But we do have cheap renewable electricity. So we've fulfilled kind of our half. And so now we're waiting for these internet giants to come in.
Nice, man. You're right at the cutting edge. It's very, very cool. Respect to what you built the last couple of years. So yes, I'd like to close out the show today talking about our ally, Cynthia Lummis, the foremost Bitcoin senator in America. She's the one who introduced the Bitcoin Act, which would, of course, have America buying up to 1 million Bitcoin over the course of 5 years. Of course, that is still not going through Congress just yet. It's been introduced, but has yet to move forward. However, it has been announced that Cynthia Lummis will be retiring at the end of her term, which will be seen at the end of 2026. So she's got 1 year left to fill out her term as a senator, and then she will not be running for re-election. She put out a message on Friday, and really, I mean, no other senator has really carried the flag for Bitcoin like Cynthia has. And I mean, power to her, right? She's 71 years old, and she said that it's more like it feels like you're sprinting, right? She says, I've come to accept that I do not have 6 more years in me. I'm a devout legislator, but I feel like a sprinter in a marathon. The energy required doesn't match up. So, I mean, it's something that you highlighted before, right? I mean, especially in our current government, it's there's a lot of people who are septuagenarians, 70s, octogenarians, 80-year-olds, and they're running the ship. And we are at the precipice of this industrial technological revolution led by AI, Bitcoin. Everything is changing so fast. She has done an amazing job for leading Bitcoin forward in this country, but she admits that she doesn't have 6 more years, right? She doesn't want to spend her whole entire 70s going through the gauntlet that is Washington. So really hope that another senator will step up and be the face of Bitcoin in the House of Congress, but we'll see. Yeah. Have you heard of Cynthia Lummis? What's your opinion of her?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of Cynthia Lummis, our senator from Wyoming. I've heard her speak a few times, and also I think this somehow clarifies or verifies that she is in fact a Bitcoiner, right? I mean, what Bitcoiner wants to spend another 6 years in government, moving policy along inch by inch? I think she sees the real power of sovereignty and the private sector. And I feel like she'll have a very productive life in the private sector. So she would be perfect to serve on a board of, Coinbase or NYDIG or what have you. And I think that would give the industry kind of the spirit that it needs, because she's really a transformational figure. And so I think this is great news. I'm glad she's out of politics, and I hope to see her in the private sector.
Yes, she's been a rock star, one of the huge fan favorites at the Bitcoin Nashville conference and any other conference where she appears. And yes, let's hope that she keeps a place within the Bitcoin community even after she leaves Congress, because we value her voice. All right, Kal, we're here. We made it through the hour. How are you feeling, and where should people go to follow you and find out more about what you're doing?
I'm feeling good. Find me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm on YouTube. I'm on LinkedIn and all the rest. I think our best source is probably our website, bitcoinbur.org. We try to host a lot of great educational material, and so we hope to keep it going. We have a lot of support. We have a lot of friends. Thank you for having me on Bitcoin News. I think it's great that you're giving me a platform to share my story. And I hope to welcome more investors into Ethiopia. It's not always an easy place to do business, but I think it's well worth it. And the rewards are outpacing the risk. So find me on Twitter, and I look forward to engaging in a conversation about Bitcoin.
Yeah, and we have a large American audience here. If there are American investors, what kind of investors should be interested in Ethiopia from America?
Sure. So I think operators, so those that have run Bitcoin mining facilities before, often larger ones are more advantageous just because of the way we allocate power here. We prefer some of those larger facilities requesting 10, 50, 100 megawatts at a time. So if you have experience, if you're well capitalized, and you'd like the risk and adventure of working in Ethiopia, then I think this is a great place for you.
Cheers. Well, yes, we just threw the bitcoinbur.org in the comments, so go check out the educational website there. And go follow Kal on X. He's an amazing follow. Really keeps you up to date of everything going on in Bitcoin mining in Ethiopia. Been really fun to watch your journey. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Bitcoin News Weekly Live. We're here 11 a.m. Eastern every single Monday. Hit that like button, share this video, send it to friends, help them get up to date on Bitcoin and educated on everything they need to know for the week ahead. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week, as we always are. Until then, stay frosty, stay humble,